there, Buttercups. Your resident Teabelle here. Welcome to Hark, 'tis the Teabelle. Let's dive in for that tea today, huh?
Welcome back, Buttercups. I'm so excited to start season 2. And season 2, we're going to dive into something very interesting. Okay? Something our history lovers, trivia nerds, and everyone who has ever received unsolicited lawn advice will appreciate. Today, we're diving deep into one of the world's most beloved and surprisingly controversial holidays, Father's Day. From grief and tragedy to political resistance to neckties and power tools, this holiday's journey is way bigger than most people have realized. So grab your world's best dad mug and let's go unpack the origins, religious roots, forgotten founders, politics of it all, global traditions, commercialization, and masculinity myths. And yes, why dad jokes may actually be a part of the cultural package. Before we actually discuss Father's Day, though, it came to mind that maybe we could just talk about some father figures, maybe in mythology, religion, legend, those types of things, right? Because we should figure out what a father is seen as, right? So we're going to start with Zeus in Greek mythology. His official title is King of the Gods, okay? But he is arguably history's messiest father. So we know that he's known for his power, patriarchy, and the many children, and a lot of chaotic family drama. And we're going to translate this into cultural meaning because Zeus embodied the ancient concept of fatherhood as authority, law, and lineage. But he also showed how unchecked paternal power could create generational chaos. Just saying. And then we have Odin from Norse mythology. Now, he is considered the All-Father. He was wisdom-seeking, war-leading, fate-chasing, and his themes were more along the lines of sacrifice for knowledge, leadership, and preparing children for destiny. Odin reflects the father as teacher and existential guide. All right. And then we have Saint Joseph, who is in Christian tradition, and he is a symbol of quiet devotion, protection, and humility. Now, he matters because he shifted fatherhood imagery from dominance to nurturing guardianship. Now, across cultures, you're going to see that many traditions portray fathers as lawgivers, providers, protectors, and moral guides. Okay, because ancient fathers were often symbols of civilization itself. So powerful, flawed, revered. Okay, but then there are famous fathers in history, and you have the good, the bad, and the complicated. So let's start with the good. Okay, so we're going to start with Abraham Lincoln here because he is known for tenderness towards his sons even amid the war. There was affection, there was good storytelling, there was human vulnerability. And then we have Gandhi. He was a father figure to millions, though his personal family relationships remain debated and complex. Okay, now we're going to jump to the bad because this is where you see daddy issues shaping nations, okay? And eventually I will talk in great detail about this man. But Henry VIII had an obsession of obtaining a male heir, which equated to dynasty survival at the time. And there were many, many consequences of his actions, and these are just so few of them. We're going to go through this hopefully in future seasons. There were multiple marriages, religious upheaval, and succession trauma. The bigger truth of it all is that one father's insecurity changed kingdoms. Obsession with male heirs reshaped kingdoms over succession. And eventually, we're going to talk about him and the repercussions of his dynasty, okay? Just know this. Nicholas II, his challenge was balancing fatherhood with imperial collapse. And his legacy turned out to be his deep love for his family with catastrophic political failures. Okay. We have Marcus Aurelius. He was a philosopher king, yet father to Commodus, whose reign became synonymous with instability. His lesson was that even wise fathers cannot script their heirs fully. Okay. And then there's Ivan the Terrible. famously killed his own son in a rage, according to, a long standing historical account and artistic tradition. But can you identify the royal pattern yet? There's legacy pressure, succession anxiety, family politics, public duty versus private parenting. In monarchies, fatherhood wasn't just family, it was geopolitics. And then we have one complicated kind of father figure, okay? That was Thomas Jefferson. So, yeah, he advocated for liberty, but he also enslaved people and fathered children with Sally Hemings under profoundly unequal power structures. Okay? Now, he did do some good, but then there's a little bit of that negative, right? The lesson here is that historical fathers often reflect the tensions between public greatness, private life, and power versus nature, right? So take that as you will. Eventually, we may go down more rabbit holes that include them. I haven't decided yet. All right, so we discussed a few specific fathers, but if we want to see how dads have changed over time, so fatherhood through history, let's go and start with the ancient world, which we already kind of started. Father equals power, property, and patriarchy. So, in like ancient Rome, the father was often the absolute ruler of the household, and that doesn't mean just head of the household, like quotation wise, or what you'd put on your taxes. That meant he would control property, finances, marriages, children's futures. So fatherhood was equivalent to authority first, affection later. In the Middle Ages, he was the provider and protector. So during medieval Europe, fathers were expected to teach trade, defend family, and guide religion. So here, many dads were less emotionally expressive by modern standards, but deeply tied to lineage and survival. Now, early modern era, so that was discipline over dad jokes. So, like in colonial America, fathers were moral leaders, they were spiritual heads, economic anchors. The good father was strict, hardworking, and pious. Puritan fathers often saw parenting as preparing children for salvation, not self expression. Just a lesser known twist that you might want to know. Industrial revolution. This is where dads leave home. Before factories, dads worked at home, whereas after industrialization, dads worked away from the home. And that major shift became associated with fatherhood representing breadwinning, long absences, emotional distance. So this is where you see dad being a provider really solidifying. Okay. Now, World War II and post-war era, the hero dad. So 1940s, 1950s, you saw dad as a provider, a veteran, a suburban ideal. So your cultural image here should be like the lawn, the car, the nuclear family, a backyard grill. Okay. And this is where TV reinforced this with father figures like wise, stoic household leaders. But this is where, later in the 1960s to 1980s, dadhood is getting questioned. So this is where social change is challenging old fatherhood ideals. So women were now entering the workforce, divorce rates were rising, and psychologically emphasizing emotional connection versus just them being providers. So the new idea now was dad should be more than just a paycheck, okay? Which was probably a huge thing. Now, 1990s to today. This is the involved dad era. So modern fatherhood expanded diaper duty, school pickup, cooking, and emotional vulnerability. So this increased the rise of stay-at-home dads, single dads, stepdads, LGBTQ plus dads, and chosen fathers. So now modern mantra is actually presence is better than patriarchy. It's more important than patriarchy. Because then it was because I said so, right? Now it's let's talk about your feelings after I finish grilling. We were honoring fathers long before Hallmark ever did. Okay, and this does have ancient and religious roots. So fatherhood celebrations existed long before any modern Father's Day did. St. Joseph's Day, March 19th, is celebrated in many Catholic countries like Spain, Italy, and Portugal. See, fathers were traditionally honored through St. Joseph, the earthly father of Jesus. And this dates back centuries and remains a major Father's Day alternative today. Many cultures historically emphasize paternal authority, inheritance, and lineage, but a specific Father's Day focused on appreciation rather than authority is actually relatively modern. Okay, so let's go now into the first U.S. Father's Day, born from tragedy. 1908, the forgotten beginning. So before Sonora Smart Dodd, there was Grace Golden Clayton. Okay, after the devastating Monaga mining disaster killed hundreds of men in 1907, Clayton organized a church service on July 5th of 1908 to honor those fathers lost in that disaster. And it was heartfelt. It was great for the families to get together and, have that moment, but it was not annual. Okay. And this event is often overshadowed because it lacked sustained promotion and really wasn't commercialized. Okay. Now, the woman who actually made Father's Day stick is Sonora Smart Dodd. Okay, she was inspired in 1909 after hearing a Mother's Day sermon, and she thought, wait, what about my dad? See, her dad, William Jackson Smart, was a Civil War veteran, a widowed single father, and he raised 6 children alone. So she petitioned churches and civic leaders in Spokane to celebrate fathers too. Okay. And so she was successful because it launched Father's Day in 1910. Okay. Now, let's do a little comparison because remember, we had one woman who was the mother of Mother's Day, which was Anna Jarvis. And her mission was to honor mothers, especially her own mother, Anna Reeves Jarvis. So, Mother's Day actually became official in 1914, right? Whereas, let me remind you, Sonora Smart Dodd, who is the mother of Father's Day, was able to help get Father's Day launched in 1910. Okay, and her mission really was to honor her widowed father, William Smart. Remember the one who had 6 kids and raised them all on his own, right? See, Sonora understood she understood publicity better. Okay, so that helped Father's Day survive longer term skepticism, right? Whereas Anna Jarvis did take a little bit longer, but that's okay. She still got Mother's Day going, right? And the fact is that both of these women did something incredible, right? Now, head to head, Anna had emotional origin, anti-commercialism, and she fought capitalism, right? Sonora was more having it as a personal tribute. She was a public campaigner and had pragmatic acceptance, right? Now, who really won between Anna and Sonora? Well, Anna may have created a faster official holiday, but she lost control of its meaning, whereas Sonora took longer but built a durable holiday. And the bigger truth here, regardless, is that both women transformed private grief into national remembrance. Now they asked, why don't we honor the people who raised us? Okay, so they had essentially the same goal. They just went about it differently, right? Because behind every parental holiday is not just greeting cards and brunch, but daughters who refuse to let sacrifice go unnoticed. And to clarify, when we say that Mother's Day was officially created faster, that is correct. Because while the first widely recognized Father's Day celebration was held in Spokane, Washington, thanks to Sonora in 1910, it was not until 1972 that President Richard Nixon signed legislation making Father's Day an official holiday, whereas in 1914, President Woodrow Wilson officially proclaimed Mother's Day as a national holiday. Just for clarification. Mother's Day and Father's Day were not invented by corporations. They were created by women determined to make love visible. Okay? Now, June 19th, 1910, the first official Father's Day. It was the first recognized Father's Day taking place in Spokane, Washington. Okay? Now, the original symbolism was that red roses meant your father was living and white roses meant your father had passed. This floral symbolism is actually one of the holiday's least known traditions today. It makes a lot of sense. Now, America was not immediately sold. So, unlike Mother's Day, Father's Day struggled hard. But why? Well, because some men thought flowers and emotional tributes felt unmanly. It was too sentimental. And retailers pushed ties, pipes, socks, and tobacco products, which made critics suspicious. Time notes that trade groups helped normalize the holiday commercially by the 1930s. It was too commercial. And there was just a lot of public skepticism, right? Many mocked it as another manufactured shopping holiday, which makes sense if you think about it. But that's not really what the whole purpose was for it. Now, there was a long road to official status, okay? In 1916, President Woodrow Wilson, remember, he signed into a national holiday was Mother's Day in 1914, supported the Spokane celebrations via telegraph. In 1924, President Calvin Coolidge encouraged state recognition. In 1966, President Lyndon B. Johnson issued the first presidential proclamation, and in 1972, President Richard Nixon officially made it permanent, 58 years after Mother's Day became official, right? Now, when does it occur around the world? Well, in the United States, it is the third Sunday in June, which is actually just the Sunday before you're listening to this podcast. In Spain and Italy, it is March 19th, which is St. Joseph's Day. In Brazil, it's the second Sunday in August. Australia is the first Sunday in September. And in Thailand, it is December 5th, birthday of a king. Okay? Now, modern Father's Day has become equivalent to big business. So they push popular gifts like ties, tools, grills, electronics, and, of course, socks. Retailers transform Father's Day into a major consumer event, though spending still often trails Mother's Day. But are we all that surprised about that? Just being honest. And then, we talked about when they occur around the world. But what do they do in other parts of the world for Father's Day? Well, one holiday, many meanings, okay? So in Germany, Vatertag often includes hiking and beer wagons, which I'm sure fathers enjoy. Maybe not the hiking so much as the beer wagons. Just saying. Japan, children often gift their fathers sake, fashion, and food. I can see why that would work. Thailand, they celebrate on the late king's birthday with symbolic yellow flowers. Mexico includes races and festivals, and global truth. Well, the fact of all of this is that fatherhood does look different wherever you're at. Every family is different, every country is different, every region is different, but gratitude is universal. Now, we see the evolution of fatherhood in real life, but what about pop culture? Well, we went from stoic sitcom dads to girl dads and grief dads. All right, I'm going to explain. So in the 1950s, you had that wise suburban patriarch. They were stern but loving, right? In 1980s to 1990s, you had the flawed but lovable dads. More humor, more humanity. 2000s to now, there are more emotionally complex dads, protective dads, girl dad culture, and healing generational trauma. All right. Now, here's the thing. We do have some famous archetypes of these dads. You had the fixer dad, the goofy dad, the sacrifice dad, the absent dad, and the chosen dad. Now, why does this matter? Well, because media mirrors changing expectations of masculinity. So you see that masculinity is having its own evolution. Okay? Now, Father's Day increasingly recognizes grandfathers, stepdads, LGBTQ plus parents, single fathers, mentors, and father figures. The holiday moved from authority-based fatherhood to emotional, nurturing fatherhood. Okay? And I may get some hate for this, but I'm going to be very honest. If you think about it, you also have parents, like, moms, who are essentially mom and dad. And they also are celebrated too in some families. Just saying. Now, let's look at the dad stereotypes because truthfully, there are three things that a dad is going to be about: the grill, the thermostat, and the cargo shorts. Okay, so your universal dad lore. Okay, you ready for this? Is grill mastery, gas mileage obsession, thermostat vigilance, toolbox worship, and white New Balance shoes. Now, these there is a sociological twist to this, I promise. These stereotypes often symbolize responsibility, household stewardship, and resource protection. So, dad behavior actually could be equated to ritualized practicality. Okay. Now, we've talked about a lot of things, but let's dive into the psychology of fatherhood because it lets us know, it shows how dads shape us even when they don't realize it, right? The attachment theory has this understanding that research shows fathers significantly influence emotional regulation, confidence, risk taking, and social development. Involved fatherhood is linked to improved academic outcomes and lower behavioral issues across many populations. There's also that emotional legacy. So positively, there's security, humor, and problem solving. Okay. Negatively speaking, there's emotional absence, fear-based discipline, and validation struggles. All very on point. The dad voice effect. This is not something you can really put tangible, but it is fact. Children often internalize paternal messaging into adulthood. It can either be something like you can do this, and that's the positive part of it, or you'll never be enough, which is the negative part. And this is the thing, fatherhood isn't just provision, it's presence. So how you impact your child's life doesn't just impact them as a child, it impacts them for the foreseeable future, y'all. That's what people need to understand, because dads, even though they try very hard to be, they try to do one thing or the another, the fact is that it doesn't change anything besides the fact that you are there. So how are you going to affect your child? Right now, let's talk about the rise of the girl dad. Okay. The rise of the girl dad. This is going to be a fun part. I feel it in my bones. All right, the rise of the girl dad. All right, you know what I'm talking about, to be clear. For centuries, daughters were often viewed through marriage aspects, family alliances, protective patriarchy. In many societies, fatherhood with daughters centered on guarding rather than emotional maturity, right? There's been a modern shift. Girl dad has become a powerful cultural identity, which now emphasizes active parenting, shared interest, breaking gender norms, emotional openness, and pride in raising strong girls. All right, now here's the thing. Remember, there's the girl dads. When I say a girl dad, I mean the one who says, you know what, I don't care if you paint my toenails because you want to practice. Or the same one who has a tea party with his daughter or tries to bond through shared interest. Okay? Just saying. Now, the phase exploded globally after Kobe Bryant, whose visible devotion to his daughters reshaped public imagination around fatherhood. So Kobe's legacy was coaching his daughters, having public pride, and showing masculinity and tenderness can actually coexist. Now, what girl dad culture represents is not don't date my daughter like it was back in the day. It's I'm raising someone powerful. Can you handle that? Right? Now, there is a bigger social meaning to all of this because girl dad culture now often reflects feminism, meaning fatherhood, advocacy, encouragement, emotional literacy. A girl dad isn't just protecting his daughter from the world. He's helping prepare her to change it. Okay? That is a big part of this. Now, the future of fatherhood, what is going to come next, right? Well, there are trends such as paternity leave, stay at home dads, mental health openness, inclusive parenting models, and tech savvy parenting that are out there. And the big shift where old models where dad is only a provider have moved to dad is emotionally available as an architect of family culture, right? And this is showing us that we are actually allowing generational cycles to break and allow healing, which has even more evolution concerning fatherhood, modern fatherhood, right? It's becoming the dad you didn't have. Okay. Now, what does that mean? Well, generational cycles can include emotional suppression, anger, absence, abuse, validation, scarcity. And so now these modern fathers now are asking more and more, what stops with me? And I love that part because everybody has something to do with it, right? And I'm glad that these fathers are stepping up. So healing looks like therapy, apologies, listening, being emotionally vulnerable, and gentle parenting. Now, there is going to be some there will be some people who say, well, I don't know, I don't agree with that. And you know what? That is fine. I'm not here to tell you how to parent. I'm just telling you that gentle parenting has now become part of the scene. Okay. Whereas we were told to man up, men, back in the day was man up. Now it's all right. Tell me what you're feeling. Okay. Now, again, here's what I need y'all to remember: how you feel about certain parenting things, that is your choice, okay? If you have children, you are the ones raising those children to be productive, good members of society, okay? How you do that is on you, but that also means that you will also bear the consequences of such raising, if you will. Now, let's go back to where science actually supports that children benefit when fathers model regulation, empathy, and accountability. Okay, here's the thing: moms have been doing that for the longest time. I love that fathers are doing it too, because breaking a cycle may be one of the most revolutionary acts of fatherhood. And that is huge, okay? Now, the father wounds and healing. When they say, what stops with me? We have to remember that there is in something you could call the invisible blueprint of their own wounds. Okay. Now, their wounds may stem from absence, emotional neglect, harshness, conditional approval, abuse, any of those. Okay. And more possibly. Now, what are those possible adult echoes? Well, that's self worth struggles, attachment issues, fear of vulnerability, and validation seeking. Okay. But let's be clear: a father wound does not always mean hatred. Sometimes it's just grief for what never happened, okay? Now, remember we talked about those healing paths and things we could do before? Well, that therapy, that reparenting, that mentorship, that honest conversation, that boundary setting can actually allow you to move forward and be the one to actively say, this stops with me, okay? And healing often means realizing you deserved guidance, not just survival. Healing isn't rewriting the past, it's refusing to let pain become inheritance. And the fact of the matter is that at this point, I want you all to understand that I'm not trying to tell you one way or the other how to parent. I'm not trying to tell you how to be, none of that. What I'm trying to tell you is that most of us can see, whether it's through our own experiences, whether it's through like TV, through any of that, that there has been a huge evolution of change for fathers, the way they're seen, the way that they handle life, and that is fantastic. I just want you guys to know that. But because we have been able to evolve to these great things already, that means that we can evolve even to be even better. And that is the goal I think everyone has in life, to be better than you were yesterday. Now, remember I said earlier that not everybody celebrates this holiday the same way. And that's fine, because there are all types of relationships you can have with your father, right? This is the harder side of Father's Day. for those who grieve, for those who are estranged, for those who have complicated relationships, okay? For some, Father's Day means loss, estrangement, abuse recovery, or complicated grief. And here's the thing, Father's Day can either be a celebration or a reflection, and that's okay. This holiday is increasingly including mentors, grandfathers, chosen families, and single mothers in dual roles. But here's what we have to remember, okay? Honoring fatherhood can also mean redefining it, okay? So let's just remember that. Celebrate in the way that feels most authentic to you, all right? Now we're going to flip to the other side because, of course, we got to discuss those dad jokes, okay? It is a cultural heritage. But why are they tied to Father's Day? Well, because culturally, dads became symbols of reliable cringe, practical wisdom, backyard grilling, and long lectures about gas mileage. And truth be told, I understand about the gas mileage, just saying. And Hi Hungry, I'm Dad may actually be one of civilization's most endearing oral traditions. So, of course, we have to look into the science of dad jokes. Why are they so bad? And why do they work? Okay? Now, look, dad jokes are usually linguistically, they're puns, they're predictable reversals, they're low stakes incongruity, okay? For example, hi, I'm hungry. Hi, hungry, I'm dad. Well, why does that work? Well, because your brain is expecting empathy and instead is getting wordplay. And now the psychology behind that is dad jokes often serve as social bonding, mild embarrassment, which is common, and child development through language play. And the scientific ish theory, repeated cringe humor can build resilience, encourage groaning as communal ritual, and strengthen family identity. Now, sociologically, dad jokes are often safe humor. So there's no cruelty, there's low risk, and there's maximum eye roll. Okay, they're not failed comedy. Let's just set that up now. They're not failed comedy. They are intentional relational warfare. Okay, now at some point we should do the top 25 dad jokes, right? And we will. Don't worry. There might be a little mini segment there for you. But I want to jump into the best TV and movie dads ranked. Now, this is going from wisdom to chaos to crying and Pixar. Okay. Whew, let's start. S tier legend. Mufasa. He had wisdom, leadership, and emotional devastation. I don't care who you are. When that scene comes to where Mufasa is about to get run over, I stop it. I'm gonna be honest. I fast forward. I do not watch it. One time was enough. And Lion King is my favorite Disney movie. So you know I've seen it at least many times in my life, okay? Marlon. Was he anxious? Absolutely. Did he love his son? Absolutely. He even had cross ocean commitment. Let's go, Marlon. Let's go, Marlon. Okay, moving on. Atticus Finch. He had integrity, moral courage, and compassion. He was a good father. Chaotic icons. Okay. Homer Simpson. He is a level 5 disaster. Okay, but he is often loving. Although he does have a few he does have issues with Bart, but whatever. Phil Dunphy. That is peak goofy dad energy. Okay, and he is truly a girl dad at a lot of it. Now, your tear jerkers. Your bandit healer. Modern gold standard. He's playful, emotionally intelligent, and internet approved. The best fictional dads aren't perfect. Have you noticed that? They show up, they grow, and they love. That's what a good dad does, okay? Now, here's the thing. We did speak shortly and a little bit on dad archetypes across cultures. Different countries, same dad energy. Well, you have the patriarch, which is that traditional authoritative dad, and you can find this in many historical societies. So, like ancient Rome, imperial China, patriarchal clan systems. Those core traits are family honor, discipline, provision, and legacy. What that translates to is respect your father wasn't just emotional. That was the structure of everything, okay? The provider protector. So common across industrial and post-war societies. So look at your US suburban dad, your salary man father, your Reconstruction era family model. Those traits were work, stability, sacrifice, and emotional reserve. He was providing and protecting his family. That was his job. Now, your playful modern dad. This is increasingly visible globally now, and it's someone who's a playmate, a caregiver, social media dad, emotionally expressive. Okay, now you can see this in Nordic parenting cultures, shared care models, and inclusive family structures. And then you have the elder lineage keeper. So, in many indigenous, African, and multi generation traditions, there's oral history, cultural continuity, and community fatherhood. So, they're taking the lineage very seriously. But the big truth of all of this, honey buns, biology may make a father, culture shapes what fatherhood means, okay? And we know what the universal dad constants are. If you don't, thermostat authority, grill confidence, and weird confidence and directions. So, yeah. At this point, if we really think about it, it all boils down to, again, your region, where you live, and your relationship with your dad. Father's Day fails and funniest gifts ever given because nothing says I love you like gas station beef jerky. Legendary bad gifts. Socks, again, the undefeated champion of I panicked. Now, your novelty ties. Let's go, especially with the fish ties, piano ties, and Hawaiian office ties. Your mug overload. The number one dad. Grill sergeant. World's okayest father. I believe at some point dad has enough ceramic validation. Real life the gift fails. A bowling ball for, a dad who hates bowling. Anti snore strips. While probably very usable, probably not the best gift. Diet books, probably a slap in the face. And world's best grandpa cup or something for a first time dad. Woohoo! Maybe don't do that. Your kid made chaos. Ah, the fun of the burnt toast breakfast with glitter explosions and portraits where your dad looks like a potato. A potato. And the hidden truth is the worst gifts are often the most memorable because they reveal effort, family humor, and shared stories. So for dad translation, is this practical? Goes to confusion. Did my kid try? Priceless. Now, some lesser known trivia that I think we should know was that the spelling of Father's Day actually did not officially start as just a father's possessive day rather than just a plural possessive. It started out as Father's Day being plurally possessive, and they just made it to Father's Day the way we know it now. Sonora was not just an activist. She also started art and fashion in World War II. Sonora tied Father's Day to patriotism during wartime to help boost broader support. Very smart on her part, if we are being very, very honest. We've talked a lot about dad energy, and there's just so much that we've talked about today, right? And we basically learned that Father's Day began not in a gift shop, but in grief, gratitude, and one daughter's determination to honor sacrifice. It has evolved through religion, tragedy, gender politics, commercialization, and changing family structures, becoming a day that now celebrates not just fathers, but the many forms fatherhood can take. So whether your dad gave you life advice, grilling lessons, terrible puns, or simply showed up when it mattered, this holiday's roots run deeper than neckties. Now, if you are close with your dad, call him, honor him, remember him, or celebrate the people who stepped in when they didn't have to, if that is the case. Fatherhood has never been static. It has evolved from ruler to provider to partner to nurturer. And the story is still being written. We don't know where it's going to go. Fatherhood isn't one story, it's protector, comedian, healer, teacher, cautionary tale, and evolving legacy. And sometimes all in one person. And sometimes we become the fathers we needed, as you see in other people. And sometimes you know in your heart that what you're doing by your kids is right. So to the fathers out there, the actual fathers, the grandfathers, mentors, stepfathers, chosen family, LGBTQ plus, and maybe even the single mothers out there who play that dual role. To anyone who possesses any of these traits and has a part in this role, I hope that your Father's Day was a very good day. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that you are appreciated and loved, and you know it. On that stance, adios, buttercups. And another father that we are going to throw in the mix this week, and to honor, are those fur dads. Okay, so hey, fur dads, you were not forgotten. I hope you guys had a very good one, and I hope your fur babies were good and gave you what you needed. Buttercups, I thank you for listening and for being a part of this journey with me. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope that you have a great week ahead. Now, should you have any questions, comments, or, maybe future topics, you can email me at harktisthetebelle@gmail.com. You can locate me on Facebook, Spotify, and YouTube. And please remember that this is a one-woman show. So, as we go on this journey together, you are growing as I grow. But until next time, buttercups.